Hey
Hey guys,
guys!
and welcome to the channel. And today we're going to be checking out why French train are the fastest.
Oh, they're
I
actually the fastest.
Yeah, I saw a video in the past, like I think it's TGVC, something like that, working on a very fast train. But I do know that Switzerland have a comfortable
Yeah,
train
very
ride.
comfortable.
I've heard a lot
And
about this.
Japan.
Japan too, right?
Yeah, Japan.
Yes.
Yes, I
But
wanted
in
to
yeah,
mention
but in
that.
Europe, I know of Switzerland. So
Yeah.
yeah, let's see why French train are the fastest.
Reaching 380 kilometers
Wait,
an
I
hour,
didn't
Yes, with
the
the
TGV
plane.
No, the
smashes
plane is just
past
acting
a
as a
world
drone
record
to capture
that's
the
held for over
Okay.
25 years. The French have something to prove, because 40 years ago,
But that
amid
speed is what the
controversy
speed that
and
commercial
doubt,
planes actually
this
operate
train
in some region
took
of the
on the
world.
plane and won. Only a few decades earlier, it seemed that trains had reached their limit. In experimental runs, railway engineers had pushed them to incredible speeds. But in actual service, trains around the world weren't anywhere near as fast,
Wow.
nor were they getting any faster. In the 1950s, they ran at about the same speeds as they did in the 1930s. The problem was, engineering a faster locomotive would only get you so far. With many rail lines having been built a half-century earlier, they had sharp curves, steep grades to climb, and outdated signaling that just couldn't handle higher speeds.
Oh,
Getting
so
trains to go
there.
faster would mean having to rebuild the tracks they ran on, which was not only expensive, many were convinced it was pointless. Because the 1960s was the dawn of the jet age. Air travel offered unparalleled speed, while the
Yeah.
automobile promised unmatched freedom and convenience. The train was no match for either. Around the world, billions were spent building new superhighways, short-haul air routes were growing in popularity, and just around the corner, new technologies and radical transport solutions promised to reshape travel entirely.
Yeah.
Many saw trains as an antiquated 19th century technology. But halfway around the world,
Actually, yes.
the
When I was much younger,
Yeah.
I picture train as old.
Yeah, things
Actually.
are good. Not even our
But it's so
grandparents.
crazy that train is
Very
still
old.
very important
Especially
in today's
metro train.
society.
Of course. And they are improving it. That's
Yeah,
why
that's
it is
it.
even.
That's why people like this step in.
Yeah.
Japanese were about to change everything.
1964.
When everyone else had given up on railways, the Japanese had just completed one of the most ambitious rail projects of the
This is Japan.
century. Building more than 500 kilometers of near perfectly straight track, tunneling through mountains, and constructing over 1,000 bridges. The Japanese called it the Shinkansen, and when it opened in 1964, the trains on this new railway ran at over 200 kilometers per hour,
Wow.
faster than anywhere in the world. The Shinkansen
I don't think that
was
they
a
do
new
very well in
kind of
Japan.
railway, one reserved exclusively for high-speed trains. Taking the most direct route possible, it cut the travel time between Japan's two largest cities in half.
3 hours
But it
and 10
wasn't
minutes.
just its speed that was impressive.
Well, no,
it
it
was
was
the
3 hours, 10
scale.
minutes.
The
3
Shinkansen
hours,
could
10 minutes.
Yeah.
move a huge volume of people. A single train carried nearly 1,000 passengers, and over 120 trains ran every single day, one every 15 minutes. In just the first 3 years, the Shinkansen moved more than 100 million passengers, and
Wow.
two cities located nearly 500 kilometers apart were seemingly pulled closer together. But as the world looked on in admiration, railway engineers in France were dismayed.
You're challenged.
Yeah.
The French
This
were
train look
no
like a
strangers
bus
to getting their
behind.
trains to go
Actually,
fast.
the
Fast
Only
and
a few
French.
years earlier, French engineers had set a remarkable train speed record, putting themselves at the forefront of railway technology. In areas of acceleration, braking, and electric pickup at high speeds, they were world leaders. But none of that seemed to matter, because the top brass running France's railways, the SNCF, lacked vision. Facing record deficits, they were obsessed with short-term fixes, cutting costs, reducing service, and closing down rail lines. But the opening of the Shinkansen sparked a profound shift in thinking. Up until then, the fastest trains in France had almost always been luxurious trains, scheduled to run maybe once or twice a day, with all first-class seating
Wow.
and expensive fares. But the Japanese had shown how speed and frequency were commodities that could be sold to an eager public. And that got them thinking.
Rewire the whole
Everybody-
setting.
Yeah,
In the
everybody
preceding
can-
years, French domestic air travel had exploded in popularity, a trend that was only expected to continue. But the irony was that an ever-increasing share of the time flying to a destination was actually spent on the ground, stuck on congested roads or in crowded airports. Turns out, going faster didn't always mean saving
Saving time.
time, and the SNCF could use that to their advantage.
True.
Yeah.
At
Because some people
distances
sometimes
above
I've had these
1,000
flights that I was supposed to leave in the morning. I end up reaching my location at night because
Yeah.
of delay,
Delay.
cancel of flights, cancel,
Yeah.
delay, pushing. End of the day, I was like, okay, if I've gone by road, it's still almost the
Still
same
almost
time.
the same. Maybe,
It's just the
Maybe
comfort.
just the
of-
comfort or the stress being on the road.
And you have plenty
Yeah.
alternative. You can decide.
So it makes no sense. Just like if you're on time at the airport, you still waste the same time.
online.
kilometers. A high-speed train scheduled to run frequently could go head-to-head with the airplane. And if it was made affordable, it could win back passengers. Within months, SNCF went on the offensive with a bold plan for high-speed point-to-point connections between major cities. But where the Japanese had spent enormous sums building an entirely new rail network right down to all
Yeah.
new stations, that wasn't going to work for the French. SNCF would have to keep costs down, utilizing as much of their existing network as possible. Instead, they'd focus their efforts on developing a new kind of train, experimenting with locomotives powered by gas turbines taken straight from military helicopters. Using aircraft technology had a few key advantages. Gas turbines were light and powerful, and they would allow trains to run on steeper grades, so tracks could be built with fewer tunnels and bridges. And kerosene-fueled gas turbines would eliminate the need to build expensive overhead lines. And the French were prepared to take it a step further than the Japanese, aiming for dramatically higher speeds.
That was massive.
In 1972, SNCF unveiled the TGV-001, an experimental train with cutting-edge technologies and a top speed of more than 300 kilometers per hour. This was a train designed to sell high-speed rail to a skeptical public. World-renowned
See,
designer Jean
TGV,
Cooper was
yeah.
hired to design a train that
They didn't trust
didn't look
them
like a
yet.
train. Taking inspiration from his earlier work on sports cars, Cooper gave the TGV bold, sleek lines that were
Yeah, I was trying to remember
undeniably
the name of
cool.
the company that did
Gone
the
were
last
the
one I
opulent
saw,
rail cars of
TGV.
earlier French express trains, replaced with modern aircraft-like cabins. Gas turbines produced an impressive 5,000 horsepower and powered electric motors that drove each of the train's wheels. Articulated
Prison-powered.
bogies reduced weight,
The
improved
earliest
stability,
train.
and offered a smooth, quieter ride.
No, the
In
earliest
testing,
is
the
cold.
prototype racked up
Okay.
Oh, yes,
over
true,
half
true.
a million kilometers and accelerated beyond 300 kilometers per hour more than 175 times. Just about anyone with political sway was invited to ride the train of the future and hear SNCF's vision for high-speed rail. With proven technology, the French were on the verge of putting the world's fastest train into service. But many leaders wanted nothing to do with the TGV. There were fears that it would be a Concorde
Concorde.
on rails, another
Yeah,
that
massively
Concorde
expensive
airline.
Yeah.
vanity project without hope of ever turning a profit. Others dismissed it as benefiting the wealthy, with new lines skipping past smaller cities to serve the Paris elite. And there were still competing visions for the future of French transport. The Aerotrain, a radical tracked hovercraft that ran on an elevated concrete guideway, was also making headlines. With a promised speed of over 400 kilometers an hour, it
Wow.
stole some of the TGV's thunder and gained considerable support.
It looks like a
Meanwhile,
plane,
the
Actually-
Civil Aviation
Pick up one at the
Administration
back.
pushed for the development of airliners capable of short takeoff and landings, and even the construction of compact runways right in the center of Paris. Support for the TGV wasn't anywhere near what the SNCF hoped for, and things would only get worse. In 1973, the price of oil began to skyrocket, rising nearly 300% in a single year. Oil exporting nations in the Middle East had imposed an embargo on the West, sending shockwaves throughout the global economy and causing widespread fuel shortages. France was among the worst hit, where almost 3/4 of the country's energy needs depended on imported oil. After years of development, SNCF found itself having gone all in on fuel-thirsty gas turbines right as the era of cheap oil was ending. But for the TGV, the energy crisis would turn out to be a blessing in disguise.
Wow.
In 1974, the French Prime Minister launched an ambitious plan to meet the country's energy needs with nuclear power, pledging to build over 150 nuclear plants under the slogan, "In France, we do not have oil, but we have ideas."
Wow.
For SNCF,
Wow.
the decision was a game changer. They began working on an electric version of the TGV.
Wow.
Switching from gas turbine to electric traction was a huge undertaking, calling for the development of new pantographs, suspension and braking systems. But French railway engineers, who had a history of pushing electric locomotives to their limits, managed to complete the modifications in just 2 years. And the switch from gas to electric would soon pay off in a big way. Cars, airliners, and aerotrains depended on imported oil, while the TGV could run on French nuclear energy. The optics were powerful, but the energy crisis also forced leaders to prioritize public transport. And by March 1976, the necessary approvals were in place for the construction of a new line connecting France's 2 largest cities. And it would largely be paid for with private capital, not government subsidies. Soon, large swaths of countryside bore witness to a massive construction project, the first major Western European rail line in nearly half a century.
1981.
With a sleek new look for the 1980s, the TGV was set to debut as the fastest train in the world. But just months before opening in 1981, French railway engineers would do what they did best: find out just how fast they could go. In a highly publicized event, they pushed the TGV well beyond its initial operating speed, all the way up to 380 kilometers per hour, smashing the world record they had set decades earlier. But while
They
the
smashed the record
1955
in
record
times
had
too.
pushed
Imagine
railway
breaking your own
technology to
record.
its literal
The
breaking
word have not
point,
caught up to you.
380 kilometers per hour was achieved with the very same train that would soon go into service, paving the way for even higher speeds in the future. From its opening in September 1981, the success of the TGV surprised even the SNCF. Only 2 months after opening, it had already carried its millionth passenger.
Wow.
And within a year, France's largest domestic airline saw a 60% decline in passengers between Paris and Lyon. Many of the public's criticisms
the
faded
passengers-
as the price of a ticket
Who want
wasn't
to
any
enter a
higher
plane
than
when
on a
there's
regular train.
Train,
And an
like,
aggressive marketing campaign promoted the TGV's efficiency, time savings, and accessibility. And as if on cue, politicians who had vehemently opposed the TGV in the 1960s and 70s now proudly proclaimed their support for it all along.
Wow.
Almost
They
immediately,
didn't want to
SNCF
invest
began.
before.
They were waiting for success. They don't want the process. They don't want to
God,
build. They want to
humans.
just see the results. Gambling the
Now you're here
Concorde.
to take photos.
Yeah.
And to plan
Oh,
for new
Concorde.
lines connecting more French cities. Over the years, service speeds also increased, and in experimental runs, French railway engineers continued to push the limit, ultimately reaching 574
Whoa.
kilometers an hour in 2007. A railway
They
speed
keep breaking
record
their
that
own
holds
record.
to this day.
This was the video I
Like
watched
the
the last time.
Shinkansen, the TGV was an immediate technical and commercial success, and by the mid-1980s, it had become a symbol of national pride, a nearly 2-decade-old vision that had finally been confirmed. The train had taken on the plane and won. And
And
as
won.
a testament to the forward thinking of railway engineers, today high-speed rail is more relevant than ever.
Obviously.
The 1991 Gulf War was a defining moment in modern warfare, a showcase of advanced military technology on a massive scale. And in the opening hours of the conflict, Iraq commanded the 4th largest military in the world, with an air force of nearly 700 combat-ready aircraft. Among
Iraq?
these
Yeah.
was the Soviet-built MiG-25 Foxbat,
I didn't know they
a
had
Cold
such-
War-era interceptor that by many
Because,
accounts
military.
Do you need to stand?
a Cold War-era interceptor that by many accounts was too heavy, too unmaneuverable, and too outdated to put up much of a fight. But the Iraqis would push the aircraft to its limit, leveraging any advantage they could find in a daring plan to ambush state-of-the-art American F-15s as they patrolled the skies over Baghdad. The outcome wasn't what anyone would have expected. You can learn more about the incredible Samurai
Wait, you
air
just
battle
kept us
in my
hanging.
video
Yeah.
series.
What
Now
happened?
I was
It was
trying,
very curious.
I was trying to like ask like, what does Iraq the current like? How
Yeah,
does
I
it
wanted to
relate
say,
with
I
fast?
wanted to. I was thinking maybe he wanted to talk about the speed of the craft.
Yeah,
and
so
relate it
I was
to
just thinking
train.
like, how does it relate with the train?
He just left us.
And
hanging.
now,
Mila
now I
is
want to see
home
that
to a
video.
growing number of exclusive Mustard videos. Whether it's the stories behind iconic machines, exciting if mass wired, or the fundamental
No,
it needs to
he
be.
left us
The videos
tasty.
only have to make
Yeah.
Mustard viewers happy, not a general.
Okay, I think this is the end of
Left
the
us
video.
tasty.
But overall, like this is really incredible how far they've pushed the limits, and instead of seeing an idea and just being at how they
Mhm.
wanted to recreate
Create
it,
it.
Yeah.
and they saw a market in it, and they took the opportunity, even if the politician at the time was not like actually
They
supporting
were
the whole
not.
idea
They didn't even want to go into it at all because
because
of
of
the
the
first one that
yeah the way the
happened.
Concord failed. They were like, okay, this is a Concord 2.0.
Yeah, true.
2-0.
Yeah, I actually they put a lot of effort because
Yeah.
making new train line, making new train, and
They
understand.
surprised themselves
Actually,
twice.
twice.
Or twice.
And for me, it's beating your own record twice. Like that's insane, guys.
Setting your own goal.
Set your
Setting
own
and
goal.
achieving
Like,
it.
Like the many European countries have not like caught up to you. You see, improve.
Improved.
Like
to the point
wow.
that you even made airplane traveling
drop.
like,
drop,
Yeah,
yeah.
down to
60%.
60%.
Because the idea of train is to move a large number of persons within a short time.
Yeah, actually, and they actually did a good job at
Yeah.
that. Thanks for watching with us. If you're new here, consider liking, subscribe to the channel. Until next time, bye for now.
Bye.